How will today end now?
Damn school. Secrets and courage. Emir was only 7 years old. He entered the school through the iron gates, clutching his mother's files tightly in his hand and carrying his newly purchased backpack, which he didn't particularly like because of its color. Even the small blue keychain dangling from the zipper of his bag couldn't calm his excitement. Dozens of children were running around the schoolyard. Screams, laughter, tears, it all mixed together. Emir, amidst the crowd, felt as if he were alone in the world. He didn't want to let go of his mother's hand, but she leaned over and whispered in his ear, "You're a grown man now, son. You'll find your own way here. I'll pick you up at the exit." Emir's throat tightened. His mother's eyes were moist, but she was smiling. As the woman walked away, Emir stood there, in the middle of the courtyard. Most of the children around him had either reunited with old friends or had gotten used to each other more quickly. Emir felt like a stranger. When the bell rang, he entered the classroom. The teacher stood at the blackboard, smiling, reading the names one by one. The children shouted, "I'm here," one by one. When it was Emir's turn, he was barely audible. When the teacher didn't hear, he spoke a little louder, "I'm here." But at that moment, a child's mocking laughter rose from the back row. "Look, he's not even making a sound." There was a moment of silence in the classroom. Emir's face flushed. He stared at his notebook. The feeling that everyone would laugh at him from the very first day turned his insides cold. The teacher didn't intervene immediately, only glared at him briefly, but then continued. At that moment, something struck Emir. He could be alone here. Later in the day, he went outside during recess. He was trying to find his own corner in the crowd. Just then, a wide-eyed, slender girl standing next to the trash can approached him. "Hello, are you new?" she asked. Emir was surprised. It was the first time someone had spoken. He nodded. The girl smiled. "I'm Zeynep. I can play with you if you'd like." Emir felt a little relieved, but just as he was about to accept, the same mocking voice echoed from behind. "Zeynep, stop it! This kid is weird!" Emir froze. Anger and fear welled up inside him. Zeynep glanced at him, then back at the boy. Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. That evening, when he returned home, Emir locked himself in his room and told his mother nothing. But as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the following thought passed through his mind. "I'll either disappear here, or I'll show myself to everyone."
The next morning, Emir woke up with a huge knot in his stomach. The thought of school no longer brought excitement, but dread. On the way, his mother noticed. "Did something happen?" she asked. Emir shook his head. He didn't dare say anything because he thought his mother would be upset. When he arrived at school, the same crowd, the same voices, but this time, one thing caught his attention. Among the children standing at the edge of the garden, the boy who had teased him yesterday was staring intently at Emir. They were talking and laughing with the others around him. Emir's heart raced. He told himself, "She's going to embarrass me again." But just then, Zeynep, whom he'd met yesterday, approached him. This time, she looked more determined. "Don't pay attention to them. Come, let me show you the garden." Emir bowed his head but followed. Zeynep showed him a small wooded area behind the school. It was quiet, and bird song was audible. Emir felt a small sense of relief. Just then, the classroom bell rang. The two of them returned to the classroom. When class began, the teacher wrote some simple math problems on the board. Emir knew he could solve them, but he didn't dare raise his hand. Then the teacher scanned the classroom and unexpectedly said, "Emir, do you want to solve them?" His heart nearly leapt out of his chest. All eyes were on him. He walked slowly to the board. His hands were shaking as he picked up the chalk. Then the voice came again. "Let's see if he can do it." Emir closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he began writing the problems on the board. He made a small mistake at first, and the class chuckled softly, but he quickly noticed and corrected it. And the result was correct. The classroom fell silent. The teacher smiled. "Well done, Emir. You did a great job." When Emir looked up, he caught the eye of only one person, the boy who had teased him yesterday. He was frowning and looking displeased. At that moment, Emir realized this boy would keep trying to mess with him. But why? When the bell rang, the boy came over. With a sly smile, he leaned over and whispered in his ear, "I don't want you to get comfortable here. You've shown you're smart from the very first day. But I don't like you. Just know that." Emir's heart trembled. He felt as if he'd entered not just a new school, but a secret battlefield.
That evening, when Emir lay in bed, the same sentence kept replaying in his mind. He doesn't want me to be comfortable here. He couldn't fall asleep. Even when he closed his eyes, that boy's gaze came to mind. He thought for a moment, what if he really does harm me? Or if everyone takes his side? He tried to look determined as he left for school that morning, but his heart was still pounding. When he stepped into the garden, the same boy was staring at him again. He was with his 3 friends. They were all whispering and laughing. Zeynep came to him and whispered, "Don't look at them. They're always like this. They did the same thing to another boy last year." Emir was surprised. What happened then? Zeynep bowed her head. That boy changed schools. Emir's face froze. He thought, will I be like that too? Classes began. The first 2 classes went normally. But as soon as the recess bell rang, Emir was leaving the classroom and was hit hard on the shoulder. When he turned, he saw the boy. His name was Berk. "Slow down, man," Berk shouted, but the grin on his face gave it all away. Emir couldn't say anything. He quietly walked away, but Berk called after him. "Look, new kid, I make the rules at this school. You just stay quiet. Understand?" No one in the class was laughing openly, but most of the kids were watching. Some were silent out of fear, while others were just staring out of curiosity. When lunch came, Emir went to the cafeteria. He picked up his tray and sat at an empty table. A few minutes later, Zeynep joined him, but just then, Berk and his friends entered. They saw Emir's table and began to approach with heavy steps. Berk sat in front of Emir. He leaned in slowly and whispered, "Shall we play a little game together?" His friends giggled. Zeynep's face tightened. A cold fear settled in Emir's heart. Berk took the bread from Emir's tray and turned it over in his hands. Then he shouted loudly, loud enough for the entire cafeteria to hear, "Look, the new kid can't even protect his food." Laughter erupted. Emir's face turned bright red. In that moment, Zeynep jumped to her feet and shouted, "Put it down, Berk. You keep doing the same thing. I'll tell the teacher." There was a silence in the cafeteria. Berk narrowed his eyes. Then he gently placed the bread on the table. "You talk too much, Zeynep, but remember, everyone has a secret." These words instantly tensed the atmosphere. Zeynep's face paled, her eyes cast downward. Emir was stunned. It was as if Berk's mysterious words had opened a new door. In that moment, Emir realized Berk knew something not only for him, but also for Zeynep, and this was much more complicated than he'd thought.
Berk's words echoed in Emir's mind. Remember, everyone has a secret. Zeynep's state at that moment surprised Emir. The normally courageous and upright girl suddenly withdrew into herself, her eyes lowered. It was as if those words had touched an invisible wound. After leaving the cafeteria, Emir was walking silently down the hall when Zeynep approached him. Her voice was trembling. "Please, don't tell anyone what you heard today." Emir looked at him in confusion. "I didn't hear anything, just what Berk said." Zeynep took a deep breath. She tried to hide her face, but tears welled up in her eyes. Berk knows something about me. If he tells the class, I'll be devastated." Emir was stunned. "What could he possibly know? And what are you afraid of? You haven't done anything." Zeynep shook her head and bit her lip. "I can't tell you, at least not now. But please, believe me, if Berk talks, I won't be able to survive at this school." Emir remained silent. A great conflict was building within him. On one hand, he wanted to protect himself, and on the other, he was burning with the desire to help Zeynep. Even in his first week, he felt as if he had been drawn into a vortex. That evening, when he returned home, his mother asked again, "How was school?" Emir lied once more. It went well, but he couldn't sleep all night. He thought to himself, Berk isn't just a bully. He silences people with his secrets. So what's Zeynep's secret? And what if she finds out my secret? The next day after class, Emir stopped by the library. He was looking for silence. As he wandered among the shelves, he heard a voice behind him. "I guess you like being alone." When he returned, he saw Berk. He had come alone. This time, his face wasn't threatening, but strangely calm. Emir said nothing. Berk approached with heavy steps. "Look, Emir, you're smart. I knew that from the first day. But smart people don't stay at ease at this school for long, especially if you're friends with people like Zeynep who have secrets." Emir's patience wore thin. "What secret is there?" he snapped. Berk smiled, turned, and whispered as he left, "When the time is right, everyone will know, but you're already involved." He disappeared through the library doors. Emir was left alone among the shelves. An indescribable fear and curiosity was growing inside him. Now he knew. This wasn't just the first days of school. This was the beginning of a big secret. After that night, Emir's mind never stopped. Berk's words, Zeynep's tears, everyone's curious looks in class, it all swirled around in his head. His feet were backpedaling on his way to school this morning, but a part of him wanted to know, what could Zeynep's secret be, and what frightened her so much? The same scene hung in the schoolyard. Children were playing, laughing, some fighting. Zeynep found Zeynep in the crowd. She was sitting alone, her hands clasped on her knees. Emir sat down next to him. "I thought about what you said yesterday," he said. Zeynep didn't look up. "I wish you didn't know," she murmured. "Look, I wouldn't tell anyone anything, but why are you so afraid? What does Berk want from you?" Zeynep's lips trembled. She was silent for a moment. Then she spoke, almost in a whisper. "I don't have a father." Emir was surprised. "So, he passed away?" Zeynep tried to wipe away the tears that filled her eyes. "No, he's in prison." Emir's heart raced. He hadn't expected something like this. Zeynep continued, "No one knows. My mother has been hiding it from everyone for years. But Berk found out somehow. If he tells the class, everyone will distance themselves from me. They'll call me the criminal's daughter. That's why I had to leave another school last year." In a flash, Emir understood. This was Berk's power. He found people's wounds and silenced them with it. At that very moment, Berk was staring at them from across the garden. A sly smile curled his lips. It was as if he knew Emir had now learned Zeynep's secret. Emir was filled with anger, but he was also afraid, because he might not have a secret of his own, but what if Berk found something in his life too? As class ended that day, the teacher made an announcement. "Tomorrow, kids, we're going on a class trip. We'll spend a little day at the campsite by the forest. Come prepared, everyone." The children shouted with joy, but Emir's heart sank, because he knew, in the forest, away from the teacher's eyes, Berk's games could be much more dangerous.
When the day of the trip arrived, the entire class boarded the bus. The children were singing songs and laughing. Emir, however, stared out the window, unable to shake off the gnawing thoughts. Zeynep, sitting next to him, was silent, clearly harboring the same anxieties. When they arrived at the campsite at the edge of the forest, everyone ran around excitedly. The teacher divided the children into groups and gave them free time. As Emir and Zeynep sat at the base of a tree, the moment they'd been waiting for arrived. Berk and his friends approached them. Berk had that familiar smile on his face. "Today, everyone will learn the truth about you, Zeynep," he said. Zeynep's face turned pale. Emir jumped to his feet. "Enough! You can't use her secret to scare us," he shouted. Berk laughed. "Don't interfere, new kid, or I'll find out something about you, too." Just then, something unexpected happened. Emir mustered all his courage and turned to the children in the class. He caught the crowd's attention and spoke loudly. "If you must know, Zeynep's father is in prison, but it's not his fault. He's suffering more than us, yet he's still trying to stay strong. What would you do if he were here?" A chilling silence fell. The children's faces were filled with astonishment. No one mocked him. On the contrary, some bowed their heads, because deep down they all felt Emir's courage. Berk's smile froze. For the first time, he had lost control. Even his friends were looking at him, silently backing away. Zeynep looked at Emir through tears. She whispered, "You didn't have to do that." Emir smiled. "You don't have to be afraid anymore, because those who can share their secrets are strong, not those who keep them." From that moment on, the balance shifted. Berk wasn't as strong as before. Everyone realized he was really just someone who exploited the pain of others. Gradually, Zeynep began to make friends, and Emir, for the first time, he didn't feel alone at this school. That night, as he lay in bed, Emir took a deep breath. "I won't get lost here," he said to himself. "I will find myself here." And so it was. The end moon.